Chiropractic is a form of alternative medicine that purports to treat problems with the musculoskeletal system, and especially the spine. It was created in the 1890s by D.D. Palmer, who called it a science of healing without drugs. It was founded upon pre-scientific notions of vitalism, that so-called vertebral subluxations or joint misalignments were the cause of disease and are thus correctable by chiropractic adjustment. Modern-day chiropractors can generally be divided into straights and mixers, with straights retaining much of this more egregious pre- and pseudo-scientific etiology of disease, and the more common mixers who have discarded some of this old baggage and attempt to take a more modern approach to chiropractic, but who nevertheless appear to embrace many pseudoscientific ideas. Somewhere between 6 and 12% of Americans and Canadians use chiropractic care. It's apparently the most common form of alternative medicine for children and adolescents. Chiropractic is perhaps best known for doing spinal manipulation, often termed spinal adjustment or chiropractic adjustment, characterized by a dynamic thrust which causes an audible release or cavitation and attempts to increase the manipulated joint's range of motion. However, chiropractors employ a large number of treatments in their practice. And like acupuncture and other forms of alternative medicine, there is a wide range of issues that chiropractors use these treatments to attempt to address. Perhaps the most promising issue for which spinal manipulation treatment, or SMT, has been studied is lower back pain. However, before we can turn to the literature, we must note a couple of methodological hurdles in studying the efficacy of chiropractic. And that's to do with 1, using a plausible placebo control, and 2, adequate blinding. Even more than acupuncture, as we saw in the previous video, chiropractic treatments are pretty elaborate. Due to this, most of the literature does not involve placebo or sham controls, so let's go through this literature first. Then we'll look at the small portion of the literature that actually does use a sham control. Once again, we'll mostly stick to systematic reviews and meta-analyses, as there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of individual studies. The most common issue that SMT has been studied for is lower back pain, so let's focus on that. Cochrane came to restrained conclusions with a 2010 systematic review, asserting that there was a lack of evidence for clinically meaningful benefits from SMT on lower back pain. Another Cochrane review the next year noted positive effects on par with other common therapies, but cautioned that, due to the absence of placebo or sham controls, it's unclear whether these constitute actual therapeutic effects. Yet another Cochrane review from 2011 concludes that there's no clinically relevant difference between SMT and other interventions for reducing low back pain. As with acupuncture, there is such a large literature and so many reviews of it that there are now reviews of those reviews. Alternative medicine researcher extraordinaire Edzard Ernst, whom we met in the previous 2 videos, conducted his first such effort in 2006 with a colleague, concluding a lack of convincing evidence to support SMT for any condition. The authors also confirm a finding they had previously uncovered, that chiropractic authors are much more likely to produce positive conclusions than non-chiropractors are. Ernst did another review of systematic reviews a couple years later on a variety of issues relating to chiropractic. He notes that SMT has not been shown to be effective for any condition with the possible exception of back pain, but that its cost effectiveness, safety, and thus its therapeutic value have not been sufficiently established. In 2011, Ernst and a co-author updated the 2006 systematic review of systematic reviews, now 45 reviews included, concluding that, quote, collectively, these data fail to demonstrate convincingly that spinal manipulation is an effective intervention for any condition, end quote. In 2012, Posadzki undertook a similar effort and similarly concluded that there is no demonstration that spinal manipulation is an effective intervention for pain management. He also noted the issue of publication bias that pervades the chiropractic literature. Many reviews of chiropractic treatments for other conditions have also been conducted. I won't spend time on these. Every review so far conducted notes a lack of strong evidence that chiropractic treatments are beneficial for radiculopathy or pinched nerves, for extremity conditions or issues with limbs, hypertension, asthma, idiopathic scoliosis, pediatric health conditions, and others. So that's a tour of the evidence without sham or placebo controls. Not all that promising overall, but perhaps suggestive that SMT could be effective for lower back pain. What turns up if we restrict our focus to study designs with sham controls? Is that even possible for something as elaborate as SMT? It turns out it is. There are validated sham controls for different chiropractic treatments, for SMT and for neck manipulation, which essentially involve mimicking the elaborate treatment in a way that is undetectable by the subject. An early review of sham-controlled, double-blind RCTs by Edzard Ernst and a colleague concluded that the 3 most rigorous studies, quote, suggest that spinal manipulation is not associated with clinically relevant specific therapeutic effects, end quote. A few years later, in 2004, Cochrane performed a review of the literature combining 39 RCTs into a meta-analysis. They found a marginally statistically and clinically significant benefit for SMT compared to sham treatment, but not for other treatments known to be effective. This review was mostly about comparing SMT to other validated treatments, so their conclusion reflects a lack of evidence of an additional benefit from SMT compared to these other treatments. Let's fast forward to 2013 and look at a sham-controlled RCT that did show a positive result. This is one of those studies where if all you do is look at the results to see whether there is a statistically significant effect, you may conclude, yes, see, there's a positive effect beyond placebo for chiropractic. But as I've discussed in various videos, statistical significance is not the same as clinical significance. And indeed, the differences found between the chiropractic care group and the sham group were not clinically important. Likewise, the subjects most aware of their treatment assignment displayed the largest effect. So in my opinion, this is not very convincing at demonstrating a true therapeutic effect for SMT. Let's get back to reviews of the literature instead of just singular studies. A 2013 systematic review and meta-analysis actually did find a positive, clinically meaningful effect of SMT compared to sham SMT, though there were problems with blinding. This is probably the most convincing review of the literature to find a beneficial effect of SMT compared to placebo, both immediately after and, though less pronounced, at short-term follow-up. However, the effects aren't large, with plausible low ends of the estimates well beneath the point of subjective pain detectability in humans. However, this review is an outlier, with almost every other review coming to contrary conclusions. A 2013 Cochrane review of the literature found that SMT was no more effective than sham SMT interventions for acute low back pain. A 2016 systematic review of the literature and meta-analysis, quote, found positive effects for manual therapy on pain intensity when compared to usual care and relaxation, but not when compared to sham interventions, end quote. So as far as the efficacy of chiropractic SMT, the best we can say is that it might have a small therapeutic effect for back pain, but that taken cumulatively, the evidence suggests most of the purported effect observed is due to 1, a placebo effect because of the elaborateness of the intervention, 2, non-specific effects due to difficulty with blinding, and 3, generally weak methodology that pervades much of the literature. Not to mention the publication bias that has been noted, which makes positive results more likely to be published than negative results. Other than efficacy, there's the issue of safety. Are chiropractic treatments safe? Ernst conducted a systematic review of the literature in 2007, finding that mild and moderate adverse effects are commonly associated with spinal manipulation, but didn't have enough information to provide a numerical estimate of the incidence. Another literature review 2 years later came up similarly empty-handed in being able to come up with a specific incidence or prevalence of adverse reactions from chiropractic treatments. By far, the most comprehensive assessment of the safety of chiropractic treatments was this 2017 review of reviews by Nielsen et al. They noted that just under half of these reviews expressed SMT as safe, 13% expressed SMT as harmful, and the remaining 42% as neutral or unclear, underscoring the poor record-keeping that plagues the chiropractic profession. When reducing this overview to reviews that specifically investigated harms, then the 13% of reviews that characterized SMT as harmful shot up to 35%. They identified that the most common adverse event resulting from chiropractic was stroke, especially for neck manipulation, which has also been known to cause death in rare cases. But again, there was insufficient data to provide an estimate for how common these adverse effects are. Evidence of efficacy and safety aside, there are many problems with the chiropractic profession in general. Many people apparently feel that chiropractors are suitable as primary care providers, despite their training not coming anywhere close to being sufficient to fulfill this role. Indeed, according to one evaluation, the quality of educational curricula for chiropractic is very low quality, noting that it's strongly biased in favor of alternative medicine, that many of its references are poor quality, out-of-date studies, and generally fails to meet generally accepted standards of evidence-based medicine. Accordingly, a huge majority of chiropractic websites far oversell the efficacy of chiropractic. One investigation found that only 28% of such websites only promoted lower back pain, for which the best evidence exists. Moreover, chiropractic practitioners are known to harbor anti-vaccination sentiment, and one survey found that about equal numbers of chiropractors recommended for vaccination as recommended against, even more seriously calling into question the appropriateness of using chiropractors as primary care providers. As a result, some have called for the modernization of chiropractic, which would involve overhauling the profession so that only treatments with strong evidence of efficacy and safety are offered, and so that it loses its pre-scientific and pseudo-scientific baggage. So to wrap up, some takeaways. Chiropractic is still plagued by its pre-scientific and pseudo-scientific origins, despite many chiropractors having distanced themselves from the ideas of vitalism, vertebral subluxations, and the like. A still disconcerting number of practitioners support these baseless ideas. SMT for chronic lower back pain is the most substantiated, but not more effective than more mainstream treatments like physical therapy. Overall, this evidence isn't all that impressive, with the best designed trials, double-blinded, placebo, or sham-controlled RCTs, frequently failing to demonstrate clear therapeutic effects. Modern chiropractors continue to harbor a lot of anti- and pseudoscientific baggage, often recommending against vaccination and acting as primary care physicians despite a lack of adequate training. If chiropractic wants to be seen as respectable, it should limit its application to SMT for lower back pain and drop everything else until or unless much higher quality evidence can be produced to support it. Given other effective treatments like physical therapy, which have demonstrated benefits for back pain without the additional nonsense to accompany it, it is hard to justify the use of chiropractic SMT. So there's a tour of chiropractic. And that also concludes this sub-series on alternative medicine. Thanks for watching.